So another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. It is election week in the United States, so we got to start there. Tito Ortiz, the former Huntington Beach bad boy, is now the Huntington Beach City Council member. He won over 14 other candidates by a 14% margin, which is way slimmer than he won any of his matches. You got any good Tito Ortiz moments, Brandon? Outside of politics, of course.
I mean, it would be in the Octagon. It would be against Jet Li, I think it was. Jet Li in that movie, was it Exit Wounds or one of those movies? That's my first exposure of Tito Ortiz is in a movie.
My first exposure to Tito Ortiz is just like a politician. He took my money. I never bought UFC pay-per-views, never even watched UFC, but I was familiar with Ken Shamrock, the former wrestler. So I bought the pay-per-view between Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock, and let's just say Ken Shamrock looked fine. Tito Ortiz looked fine. But for his brutal and bloody sport, they called it after Ken Shamrock couldn't defend himself after, I think it was 8 or 9 seconds, and I was out $60. So I'm a little mad at Tito Ortiz for taking my money there, but good luck to him in his political career. And hey, politics and wrestling mix, and we might have a little more to talk about that as the show continues, as this week's edition of the Heel to Face podcast starts right now.
So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Brandon and Jared.
Bad election would be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is here. Brandon Clements is with me as always. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. You can find myself at KRock Jared on Twitter and Instagram. And most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. And wherever you find the show, make sure you subscribe and get notified so that our show can come right to the top of your list every single week, so you don't have to go searching for the Heel to the Face podcast. We will come right to you. One thing that's not coming right to you is, or at least for Chris Jericho, he wants to get a win this week because his man, Donald Trump, did what appears to be not win. He was a little upset with that on Twitter just the other day. Found out for the first time, and I wasn't actually really aware of this, that Chris Jericho was such a Donald Trump supporter, which kind of threw a kink in my my ideas of everything going on in AEW, because I understand how AEW runs, but then I also find out that maybe they're not so clean as well, because Tony Khan's father has given $1 million to Donald Trump in the past. So let's just say whether you like AEW or you like WWE, I think both of them have given a lot of money to Donald Trump. So I guess if you're a wrestling fan, I guess you got to kind of like Donald Trump in a way, because I thought AEW was the more liberal one, and I think they are, but either way, they're the still promoting of Donald Trump party. One just promotes him very heavily. One promotes him a little under the radar, but either way.
And Donald Trump was at WrestleMania, a little while back too. So there was that whole storyline with him and Vince. So, of course, him and Vince.
Yeah, I hate that so much, because my first WrestleMania ever involved him. So it's very difficult, because I know so many people hate him, and yet I have a T-shirt with his face on it, and I have to be like, oh, I'm not really political. He was in wrestling for a minute. It's like, who else is on that, though? This and kind of does the same thing for me, is Chris Benoit's face is on that as well. And I have to be like, I don't promote killers, but he's a good wrestler.
Man,
Move on to this week's edition of the show. Some news that happened today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about that happened this week. We'll start with the thing that happened actually today. We're recording on a Friday, and it was announced that at Survivor Series in just a few weeks, it'll be considered Undertaker's final farewell. And that begs the question, is it, though? Brandon, is it, though?
It's probably not, as much as I have said on the record many times that it sounded like it's his farewell, and it should be his farewell, and it could be his farewell. I mean, it probably isn't. I don't know in what capacity that really means, and they kind of leave the door really open. So I mean, I don't know at this point. I never know with The Undertaker, and I think he just needs to retire. He needs to just. He's not going to be a backstage producer like some wrestlers are now that used to wrestle on a full-time basis. Or what I've seen lately is Daniel Bryan's doing a little bit of wrestling and a little bit of producing as well, helping out on the SmackDown side. So Undertaker is one of those guys where he still wants to be in, but it probably isn't a good thing for him to be in. What's your thoughts?
It's not whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's more or less, is it? I guess here's what I'll say. If 2 more Saudi Arabia shows come and go, and Undertaker is not on those cards, then I will believe that this was indeed his last hurrah in WWE. I have to see those shows come and go. WrestleMania, we've seen without him before. I saw him not at WrestleMania in years past. I think it was last WrestleMania attended, 35 in New York City. He actually wasn't on the card, despite the fact that he did show up the next night on Monday Night Raw to interfere with Elias. But when Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and then if we have Saudi Arabia shows next year, if they come and they go, one Saudi show is a little not enough for me. But if 2 Saudi Arabia shows come and go, because we all know that they have to have the star power on these shows. Yeah. So maybe one show's got Goldberg and somebody else. But if both shows come and go, and they made it through both shows and a WrestleMania without The Undertaker, then it shows that they can move on without The Undertaker. Because I think that's the big thing. It's a Vince McMahon perspective. And anytime Vince McMahon wants Undertaker, he's going to get Undertaker. I think Undertaker said that himself. So if Vince McMahon says, I got these shows without you, and is happy that 2 shows go on without him and WrestleMania goes on without him, then I think Vince McMahon will be happy to not, or suffice that he won't have to call Undertaker. And that's really what it goes down to. I don't think it's Undertaker saying yes and no. It's WWE not picking up the phone to call him to try to bring him in. And if they can do it without him, then they might say, you know what, I think we got this. And they might not bug him from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you make all valid points. And I think the same thing goes for Goldberg as well. I think Goldberg is one of the other guys that, as much as he's done so much for the business, we've talked about it numerous times on and off the show, he's done a lot of great things. But at this point, I think it's a safety risk for both competitors. Whether they're in a match together or not, again, that's a whole different topic. But I don't think a lot of wrestlers really want to wrestle with Goldberg or Undertaker at this point, because here's the thing. If you're a young up-and-coming superstar, or maybe you're Roman Reigns, who's, you're on fire right now, and you take a bad bump from a Goldberg or a Taker, your career could be done. So, for me, I think it's more, I would say this, I don't know how many wrestlers nowadays want to wrestle Undertaker or Goldberg. It's not because they don't respect them or anything, because I think everybody respects Goldberg and Undertaker in the business. I think that we can agree on. But I think from a safety perspective, we've seen the botches. At this point, I think they just need to just stay away. And I hate saying that because I love both the guys. They've done a great job in the business for many years. But it's time to just let it go. And if you want to make some guest appearances, then that's fine. You can do what Ric Flair does and pop up here and there. That's fine. I don't care about that. But I think the in-ring stuff needs to end. It needs to be done. They just can't do it with these.
Because like I just said, I think it's more or less up to Vince than it is to the wrestlers, because the wrestlers don't seem to ever want to say no. And if it's up to Vince, from what we've heard, Undertaker may be done because Vince is going to let Undertaker go. I don't think Vince is letting Goldberg go just yet. That's what I'm saying.
I'll say this. I think, I believe it or not, I believe there are some wrestlers in the back that have enough of a pull where they can say, no, I think it's too career. I think Roman Reigns would be one of the guys. I think a guy like Sheamus could be one of the guys that the Vince says, hey, I really want to put you in Saudi Arabia with Goldberg or Taker. What do you think? And they can pretty much say, no, I don't feel like that's a safe thing. I don't see that. If it was like Keith Lee doesn't have enough.
Huh? You think Sheamus has enough pull to say no to Vince McMahon?
Absolutely.
You must know more about Sheamus than I do. Because last thing I remember is Undertaker doesn't say no to Vince McMahon.
He is so connected with Triple H and the family. It's the God's honest truth. I mean, Triple H is one of Sheamus's close friends, and a lot of people don't talk about that. So guess what? Who is Triple H married to? Stephanie McMahon. Come on. Sheamus has more pull than you think he does. And you know what? The thing I like about Sheamus is he's not using that pull to get title matches left and right. He's letting the other guys develop. He's working with young talent or younger talent like Keith Lee, guys like that. I think Sheamus has done a great job in what he's done. I think his character, he's doing what he's doing, and I think he's never going to be a squash. Sheamus will never be considered someone's, on the like a peg up, like a squash match as they're trying to build somebody up, like Braun Strowman squashed some people, like a Kurt Hawkins kind of thing. I think Sheamus is one of those guys. He's been around for such a long time that it's perfect that a guy like Keith Lee or some of these other young superstars get that rub with Sheamus. They can learn from one of the best, because Sheamus is one of the best wrestlers in the business these days. And I don't care what anybody says. I know he doesn't do all these crazy flips and things, and he's not one of those like indie darlings that a lot of people love. But Sheamus is he's a great wrestler, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. And I've always liked the Bar. I always enjoyed when him and Cesaro were together. So again, I love Sheamus doing what he does, and to make it full circle, he definitely has pull. There is no question about it.
All right. Well, moving on, we're going to talk back to Tony Khan and some AEW here. Now we are going to move away from his political affiliations, but he's still getting some criticism in another place. He's been receiving criticism lately because when AEW first started, he was very adamant that AEW would be sports-based, as he liked to put it. He was trying to, end the entertainment aspect of wrestling and try to bring it back to the more athleticism. But if you remember about a week or two ago, Dinner Debonair, I mean, I don't know what tells you what is entertainment to you, but that did not make me feel like I was watching a Monday Night Football game. I've never actually seen something more not wrestling-like in my life. So Tony Khan has been facing some criticism. He did answer that criticism by saying, yes, that was a very unique segment. But other than that, he thinks the company has been very sports-based. He even thinks that the town hall that they had was still at its core and at its heart, a wrestling storyline, because the town hall took place in a ring. What do you think? Is AEW, do you think they've been enough of sports-based, or getting away from the WWE product as they should? Should Tony Khan be facing these criticisms? Should these criticisms be justified? Do you think that he has done enough and AEW has done enough to really set itself apart when it comes to the silliness of wrestling to be different, or is he just like everybody else?
He's like everybody else. I don't care what he says and what he goes back and says, oh, that was a random segment, but we like to keep the integrity of like the sports side of it, not the entertainment side of it. I have to say I have to disagree with Tony. I think watching a lot of the more recent stuff, it's almost like a carbon copy of WWE. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's like, honestly, it's made me tune out, because we were talking last week with Halloween Havoc, and here's the thing. I think we both enjoyed Halloween Havoc better than we did AEW last week, and the ratings show that. So for me, like NXT, I've enjoyed more lately than I have AEW. I think the reason why I liked AEW for so long compared to maybe the flagship of WWE, the flagship shows Raw and SmackDown, is because it was different. It was great wrestling. Yes, you had a couple segments in there, but it wasn't like these cheesy storylines like a Otis and Mandy Rose type of crap that we see. To me, they need to go back to their roots. They need to make it feel more indie, because that's what I like about it. They need to be, from a wrestling perspective, more indie, but indie on a bigger scale, where it's these great indie darlings and wrestling, former WWE cast-offs, but in an indie sense, in a big arena. You got to have it like that. It has to be indie, but at the biggest stage possible. That's not WWE, because we know WWE is not. It's entertainment. We know that. That's as simple as that. The wrestling can be good, but it's not close to what AEW was for a while with the whole indie setup. That's just my take.
I'll say this isn't any fault to Tony Khan, but he kind of put AEW on these. The problem is, and it's not really a problem, it's just life. It's pro wrestling. It's what you have to do. I don't want to put it there with WWE, with ECW, when it became a weekly program from when it was just the special pay-per-view and became a weekly program and you had to do what you had to do. But that's what it is. All right, you have 2 hours of programming every single week. You are on a national network that demands that you bring in some ratings, demands that, you bring in a personal level of entertainment that's going to draw people in and sell merchandise because there's money at the bottom line. So I understand Tony Khan at the core of things, what he wants and what he likes. But it is what it is, and I don't fault him for that. I think AEW has had more matches than like a WWE, Raw, or SmackDown when it comes to having more matches that don't have interferences, or I think WWE has a lot more skit matches that kind of start out real quick and maybe have an interference, or maybe are more focused on what's going on the outside, like the Otis and Mandy thing. There might be a match in the ring, but Mandy might be on the outside, and we might be focused on how Mandy and Otis are reacting more than the match in the ring. I'll say AEW is focusing more on the ring, but a part of that is also because we got to still get to know these guys. We aren't fully involved with these guys, and as time goes on, I think it's only going to become more entertainment based. The only reason it's not as entertainment based right now is not because they're trying that hard. It's just because we are still feeling a lot of the guys out. We're still feeling out the characters. We're still, just feeling out who we care for, who we don't care for, the personalities of everybody. So I think Tony Khan trying to come forward and say, this is how we're doing it. Just be wrestling. And the whole term sports based is stupid because that is wrestling. What would you describe wrestling? I'd be like, it's entertainment. You're like, well, like Top Gun, like Halloween. Like, no. It's sports-based entertainment. That's how you describe all wrestling, whether it be WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor. That's what it is. So by saying we're more sports-based, what do you mean you're more sports-based? That's wrestling. There is no real wrestling. Maybe Lucha Underground is more entertainment-based. Maybe American Gladiators is more entertainment-based, I guess. I don't know. But WWE, for the most part, any company that holds pay-per-view events where there is a list of matches, not segments, matches, then that is indicating that they are sports-based. So WWE is probably a little more entertainment just because they've been around longer and they have way more hours of TV to fill.
No, I agree with you on that last part you just said, last bit about the hours and the time they've been around. I do want to go back to what the point you were just making. I have to disagree with you on one aspect of what you just said. I think that we don't need to get to know a lot of these superstars, to be absolutely honest with you. I mean, yes, there's a couple that we're getting used to, but most of these wrestlers, if you are a wrestling fan or you're an AEW fan, you're already familiar with these ladies and gentlemen that have traveled the world. Maybe they're in New Japan, they were in the indie circuit. So for me, I have to disagree with you to a little extent. I agree with most of what you're saying, but I have to say that we know a lot of these guys. I mean, we know the Eddie Kingstons of the world. We know where Jon Moxley came from. We know Chris Jericho. If you're a wrestling fan and you don't know Chris Jericho, then you have serious issues because Chris Jericho is one of the greatest of all time. And also, he's a freaking rock star. So if you don't know Chris Jericho, we got some issues. I think I could see some of the lower level superstars, maybe like, I don't know, I'll use like an Austin Gunn, for example, who I like, by the way. He's someone that we got to get invested to because who's watching AEW Dark? I haven't been watching. I'm not going to lie. I don't watch it. I mean, he's been on Dark. The commentators even said he's been doing a great job on Dark. So those are the type of superstars that we need to get to know. But if you go mid-card on up, we already know what we have. We have the Sheetas. We have the Nyla Roses with what the heck's her name? Vicky Guerrero. We have her. She's a known commodity. And Chris Jericho, known commodity. I always call him Jack Swagger. I've always called him Jack Swagger, but I know he's Jake Hager. He's a known commodity. He's essentially like the Bobby Lashley of AEW, I think, because he's good. He's got a good look. He has the record, the real record in MMA. Where he's kicked some serious ass. And not to say anything wrong against Hager and Lashley, but I don't think they're very strong on the mic. I think, Brock Lesnar either. But the reason why I kind of compare Bobby and Jake Hager's because I think they're similar kind of competitors in my book. They're big guys. But Sammy Guevara is another guy. He's well known. I can go on and on. MJF. I mean, shoot, we talked about MJF being in the Arquette movie not too long ago, or the documentary. to me, we know what we know what we have. We know what the commodities. And as wrestling fans, yes, maybe we're not there in the audience, but we know what we're watching. So if we think MJF is a heel or a face, are we going to like him? Are we going to hate him? We already know at this point. We just got to get fans back in the stands for real, and then we can really show it again. But I don't think we need to get to know these wrestlers. I don't.
I will say if when he means by sports based, if he's trying to indicate, because I'll say one thing that's very sports based, and I don't watch it for the storylines, but I watch it once in a while. That's New Japan Wrestling. I definitely don't watch it for the storylines. Wrestle Kingdom, I don't know any of the storylines going in. I watch that like I watch a UFC fight because I'm not really a big UFC person. You watch it because you want to see the matchups, and that's all you want to see. You don't see the storyline building in. With WWE, I think it's different. The problem, though, is wrestling in Japan is much different. And for us American fans, most of us only do watch the events. I obviously only really watch Wrestle Kingdom. Some people just watch Dominion and Wrestle Kingdom. But either way, for American audiences, I don't think they're absorbing 2 hours every single week of New Japan Wrestling. So for the American audience, if your idea is, well, we want to be more like New Japan, well, don't be like New Japan. Because the only people who really like New Japan on a weekly basis are those in Japan. And for everything else, we watch it on an event basis. And that's why AEW, I would say Double or Nothing was a great pay-per-view when they first started, because that's what it was. It was Wrestle Kingdom. It was, we know these guys, like you just said. We're familiar with all these guys. Let's see them wrestle. But now you have a weekly television show. You have 2 hours every single week from the same venue right now, might I add, that you need to sell to us to get us interested. I'm not just going to tune in for another 2 hours from Jacksonville of match after match after match after match.
No,
to be honest with you, same thing for them. If you go back to the 70s, they're not as crazy and outlandish as they are now. They evolved with the times. When they had more TV time to fill, when these people weren't such mysteries, when Andre the Giant was on TV every single week, you can't really just sell them as this big mystery, let's see him in person oddity casino. Now we see him all the time. The cat's out of the bag. Why do we care about Andre the Giant? That you have to do something more with them, and that's what WWE did. And so AEW being more entertainment based than it would like to be is not a fault on them. It's fine. It's what happens. You're a wrestling company.
Let me just add to that real quick. You make a great point with like New Japan versus WWE. The thing I like about AEW is it's in the middle, or it should be in the middle, where you're getting a little bit of the entertainment side of WWE, but you're not getting too much. And then you're not getting the over the top, maybe more wrestling, not the storylines. I think it's kind of in that happy medium area, and that's at least for me when it was
saying that would make Tony Khan happy, because I think that's what Tony Khan is trying to indicate what his company is.
I think here's the thing. I know he's trying, but I feel like these like the what was it that dinner they had last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
That to me that's too WWE. Like, I don't mind, like, the stuff that I like that should be, AEW through and through is what we just saw on Dynamite this week. You literally got the nose-to-nose with Kingston and Mox. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. That's fun. I don't need to see, like, this town hall stuff that MJF did. It was a great promo, for sure. But I don't need to see stuff like that every single week. Let's stick to a lot of wrestling, and then let's have our occasional segments, even backstage segments. I will say this: the one thing that I noticed about watching AEW versus WWE programming is, I really enjoy the commentary much better. That's just me. I think the broadcast team at AEW, I just enjoyed it better. I think having these different guests that come on with Tony and JR and Excalibur, I like seeing they bring in Taz, they'll bring in Chris Jericho like they've done. I think it's better. I just think it's a better broadcast team. I will say this, though. One person that I really like in WWE that's on the mic, besides Wade Barrett, he's pretty good. But Samoa Joe is really good. I thought he's done a hell of a job on the commentary desk. But I have to say this. As a wrestling fan, when are we getting Samoa Joe back in the squared circle, getting physical with wrestlers again? I want to see that. But you know what I will say? This shows me that Joe is already thinking about his next move in WWE after he's fully done with his in-ring, because I don't see his in-ring career done yet. But when he gets back in the ring, and then when he decides to stop wrestling, he's going to be a commentator. There's no question in my mind. He's really good. He's picked it up just like that. he's been, as soon as from the first time to now, he's a pro. And I think he's one of the strongest I've seen in the wrestling circuit right now. That's just me.
He does remind me a lot of Taz, because if you look at their wrestling careers, I mean, Taz, look back, you would never even know. And, it's kind of funny to think that he had like a morning talk sports show on a national syndication on CBS radio for a long period of time, because, this isn't like one of the more clean-cut, WWE wrestlers to have done that. This is Taz. I mean, when he was doing this sports show where they're talking about football and baseball and women's college hoops and all this stuff, it's hard to believe that this guy was saying the F word and one of the hardest, dirtiest, darkest characters in ECW. He wasn't this sports entertainer like a polished Rock or like we see with Triple H right now. This guy was from Philly. This guy was what made ECW. When you saw Taz back in the ECW day, you never thought, I could see him wearing a suit and being a SmackDown commentator, and being the face SmackDown commentator on a TV PG program on Fox on Friday nights, or back then it was on the USA Network or Sci-Fi or UPN or any of these, you know what I mean? From where he came from as being like the gritty, tough, new, he went up with the New Jacks of the world and pretty much was a similar character in that regard. You know what I mean? Like, he had to have a mouthpiece by his side, because when he talked, he cursed. I mean, FTW. I mean, he said that left and right, and he might say FTW on TNN, but when he was on pay-per-view, he said what it meant. You know what I mean? Like, so to have that kind of, and Samoa Joe the same way, to have that kind of bruised, big time, brawler, not polished, not great on the mic, just more or less about aggression and anger and what he can do in the ring, to now be a polished commentator is so strange. But to stay on AEW for one quick second, and how they cross over from WWE, is WWE this week canceled the trademark on Cody Rhodes, which means the American Nightmare Cody can once again be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. Are you excited that Cody Rhodes is allowed to be Cody Rhodes once again in AEW?
I think it's better. I mean, let's be honest. When Justin Roberts does, he does the whole American Nightmare Cody. I think it sounds better when he does the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. I just think it sounds way better. That's my cheesy take on it. I think it just sounds better. I think the American Nightmare is fantastic. It's a play off of the American Dream, who was his late father. I think it's great. And here's the thing: the reason why it happened was WWE just kind of forgot about it and dropped the suit, or dropped the trademark on it. They didn't really care. They were like dropping that whole process. So Cody came in and did the right thing, and he grabbed it because it's his namesake, for God's sake. So.
WWE didn't care. Let's remember, WWE's done a few things where they've been trademarking things left and right, like the Great American Bash. And I don't know if you saw this, but it was actually leaked out. There was a WWE documentary. I don't know if it had to do with the Undertaker documentaries, but it was caught this week on a WWE behind the scenes of the Thunderdome. There was a actual, next to the cameras in the production room, there was an actual printed out a Thunderdome band list, and it's got images of people and logos that if you see them, take them down. AEW's logo's up there, New Japan's logo's up there, Impact Wrestling's logo's up there. And as for the band people, Ryback's face is up there, CM Punk's face is up there. I don't think Cody Rhodes or Kenny Omega, because we did see Kenny Omega on there one time, actually, in the Thunderdome. But, yeah, to say WWE isn't aware, WWE does the whole AEW, what's that? Never heard of it. But they've heard of it. They're aware. They got their logo in the back so that all the production crew in the Thunderdome, if you see this logo, this AEW logo, it not just, we didn't even notice it. They notice it. They're ready to hit the X button anytime somebody puts that up on the screen. So to say they're unaware and let the trademark, they more or less probably just, sometimes you just don't want to fight things for no reason. If they could have kept the trademark for $1, they might have. They probably would have. But, probably the fight that goes along with it, they're probably thinking, I
don't think they cared anymore. That's my take. I don't think they cared because, let's be honest, if they really cared enough, they would have said, no, I'm sorry, Cody Rhodes, you're going to be Cody, you're not going to be Cody Rhodes.
All right, let's bust through some of these last things before we get to our full gear picks for the pay-per-view for AEW, as this has been a very AEW week. But we'll move over to WWE/NXT. We'll talk NXT real quick. Candice LeRae, she doesn't seem like she's going to be going after Io Shirai. It seems like now Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley are going to face off once again. Are you excited about that? And what do you think about Candice LeRae and Shotzi, as Candice LeRae drove over Shotzi's tank this past weekend on NXT? You excited about those women's matches?
Believe it or not, I like them both. I like both matchups. I think they're both really good for different reasons. Obviously, Io is going to be great. I mean, I think anything that Io does is great. I mean, Rhea Ripley is fantastic. So watching them match up is going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot of different styles there. I do like Candice, Candice LeRae, and I do like Shotzi. I like that matchup. Honestly, I think it's going to be really good for Shotzi's career. I think they're good. I think this is WWE's way of saying, okay, let's see what you got. Really, let's see what we're going to give you a little bit of a push, because they're not. They usually would put her on like the lower level, maybe up to the high, the high lower level, maybe low mid card matches. This is a chance to be at the top of the food chain, the women's division. So I hope she does. I like Shotzi. She's got an interesting look about her. I think she's cool. I think she's different. And I think different is really good. So I think this is going to benefit out of all four. I think this is the best case scenario for Shotzi Blackheart. I think she's got a chance to be really good. And people forget that she was on Tough Enough, years ago. So she was eliminated early, I believe. So seeing Shotzi getting a little bit more recognition, a little bit more push, I think it might have been in correlation to how well she did at Halloween Havoc, on top of what she's already done. But I think the Halloween Havoc, how she did those little segments there, I think it showed WWE that they got something with her, and it's going to be fun to watch her and Candice LeRae go at it. I think it's going to be really good for her out of all the other. I mean, the other three are really already established in my opinion. So Shotzi's got the chance to really take the brass ring and go far with it.
So one match, obviously, that highlighted me for this weekend, Ciampa and Dream, I think, put on a great match. I loved Ciampa's gear when he headed to the ring with the mask that he had on. Overall, that was just a solid main event, but I know your highlight for NXT is just a continuation of the storyline that involves Pat McAfee and how they're the Undisputed Era. Pete Dunne, he was throwing Undisputed Era stuff into the fire this past week. You just obviously probably just keep eating this up and just want it to continue week after week. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, my friend. Anything that Pat McAfee does is absolutely fantastic. I mentioned it last week. It's great for Pete Dunne. It's good for for Lorcan and Birch. I think it's a good thing all around. You don't even need McAfee doing competing in actual matches. I think he just needs to be the mouthpiece for these three guys. I don't think Pete Dunne's terrible on the mic, but I think it's good to have a guy as entertaining as him as kind of like the face of their faction, I guess, if you want to, whatever we're going to call it. I keep seeing Kings of NXT. I don't even know what they're going to call them, but whatever it comes up with, I'm sure it'll be fine. But Pat McAfee, to me, that was the highlight of NXT this week. I do want to nitpick a little bit. The Velveteen Dream and Ciampa match, the only thing I didn't really like about it is who's the real face and who's the real heel. Like, I feel like they're both heels at this point.
Yeah, I would say Ciampa is probably moving his way towards being a face.
You think so?
I'm going to say that also because he had, after the NXT went off the air, to the crowd that they have there, he put on this off-camera inspirational speech about coming together as a country and everyone loving each other and that kind of thing. But other than that, I feel like he's kind of because he's battled back from injury, that kind of thing. He's moving into face territory, if you ask me. I don't think he's a bona fide face just yet, but I don't think he's the Ciampa that we knew of 4 or 5 years ago.
So he's definitely trending that way. He's definitely trending that way.
Yes, it is trending that way. We talk about Raw real quick. We can talk about Angel Garza. He's got this new Secret Admirer gimmick. I don't know if you caught that.
We know
he's Rose. And what do you think of Angel Garza without Andrade? How far do you think Angel Garza can go? Are you confident in him?
I am confident in Angel Garza. I think he's got a good look. He's got he's good in the ring. I think he's going to play this Rico Suave kind of like card. I think he can do it well. He flirts with all the girls like the Charlies of the world and anybody. But we know who he's talking about. He's talking about the irresistible Nia Jax. I think that's where it's going. I think that's our next move. I think Nia Jax is who he's got his eyes set on, so to speak. So I'm curious to see if that goes in any, if my inkling is correct. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Angel Garza can stand alone on his own. I think it's not going to be an issue for him.
You say Nia Jax, that makes me think of a storyline. What is Angel Garza? He is Latino.
Yeah.
Makes me think of a love affair we might have had going on 20 years ago now for us older people. Eddie Guerrero and China, a Latino heat.
There it is.
Is Nia Jax going to be the China in this love affair with Eddie Guerrero? Because that's kind of how it was. It was always Eddie Guerrero trying to woo China, but China being, tough and strong and being able to do things on her own. I would love to maybe Nia kind of see a rebirth of that. Nia Jax goes to win a match. Angel Garza comes out to help and only cost her the match. Nia Jax, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just trying to help, baby.
Yes.
Nia Jax being like, I got this on my own. I don't need your help. That kind of thing.
Jared, you get onto something, man. Hopefully we see something like that. I think that would be intriguing. Now, there is something I do want to point out, and I think I accurately predicted this all along. We can't go off the show tonight without talking about Roman Reigns once again. You can thank me now. I was talking about this months ago.
For now, the Usos and Roman Reigns are creating what seems to be a little faction, tribal group, if you will, of those with Samoan descent.
You're welcome, because you know what? You doubted me, and even here's the thing, and we're gonna talk about this for a second, because I'm eating this up, because for a little bit you're like, I don't see it happening. No way. He's gonna squash him, and this and that. When I watched this unfold, I was sitting there watching. I'm like, man, Jared knows I was right. It was. Here's the thing. I don't.
The dark side. Yes.
Yes, and here's the thing. I think it's going to be really good. I don't know if it's going to go to the extreme lengths that I've talked about, but I do see some sort of Samoan faction kicking in. I don't know, and you made a good point about maybe the tribal chief goes one-on-one with The Rock at some point in the future. You did say that, so I will give you full credit for that, of course. That would be cool. But I am seeing this. I think this is going to be good. I think the Samoan dynasty would be fantastic. And it's too bad we don't have, Survivor. Too bad Survivor Series is so close, because then we could build the Samoan dynasty versus the Hurt Business, Raw versus SmackDown, a little Survivor Series. But obviously that's not going to happen. But that would have been cool. I'm curious to see how this whole thing works. I have to tell you though, I think Uso is doing a fantastic job. I think he is going to be, he's in the best position to be a star. I'm like a mega. No, let me rephrase that. I won't say megastar. I will say a pretty big star, because, and I've been reading online, a lot of people in the wrestling world are they're congratulating him on all the work he's doing and how he's having this great storyline with Roman Reigns. I think it's going to be great for the Usos when the tag team themselves are back in the picture together.
Well, here's a question, though. Obviously, you just kind of alluded to it. Jey Uso kind of being the one who's gotten these championship matches, kind of being the one who's been out in the front, being the person who's going to do Roman Reigns' bidding. Now, I'm not saying anything's going to happen now, but if he does become somewhat of a star, could you see Jey and Jimmy Uso going at it one-on-one? Jimmy Uso being kind of, obviously maybe outside of this specific faction, but if Jey Uso is, let's say, like I said, he's already been the one who got 2 championship matches. Well, yeah. Jimmy Uso's over here just being Jimmy Uso. Jey Uso's the one that's getting kind of the rub from Roman Reigns. He's kind of, while he was the loser in the matches, he's now the one who's doing the bidding, which also still puts him out there, in the front. So I could definitely see maybe Jimmy Uso coming back with, being a little upset that the Usos were a team, and then Jey Uso went on his own and got himself a championship match and thought he was Mr. Big Shot by himself. Because what if Jey Uso did win the championship? Where would Jimmy Uso be? Where's Jimmy Uso? Is he the number one contender? No. What is he? He's just by Jay's side.
You're onto something. You're onto something.
Yes.
You're onto something. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that would be the way they should do it, is when Jimmy gets back, storyline. That'd be fun.
You've seen it before. Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys. I mean, this isn't new.
I know, but it's still good. It's just like you just talked about. You did the whole China Eddie Guerrero thing. I don't mind recycling some old things with new characters. I'm okay with it if you do it the right way.
So AEW Full Gear Saturday night from guess where? Daly's Place in Jacksonville.
No, really?
As you would know, before one of these days, I never thought I was going to do this, but probably before this all done, I'm probably going to have seen a pay-per-view or two or a show from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, because if we go through 2021 the same way we're going now, I guess that's going to be what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to fly down there for a weekend or something and watch them. I don't even know why I'm not flying down this week. I don't even know why I didn't even look into it. I mean, I know flights to Florida aren't that expensive, and the fact that it's a Saturday night and not even a Sunday will make it even easier. You leave at noon, you get to Jacksonville like 2 o'clock, go to the pay-per-view, leave on Sunday. Who knows? Maybe by next week, stay tuned, but I doubt it. But either way, I'll watch it on pay-per-view like everybody else. Adam Page, Kenny Omega, they were once tag team champs. They're going one-on-one against each other in this Eliminator tournament to decide the number one contender for who is going to face either the winner of Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston in the future. Who do you see as the number one contender? I'll put my pick out here first, and I'm going to say Adam Page. And the reason I say Adam Page is because this company is run by people who are very unselfish, who are trying to get other people over. And while we've seen Kenny Omega in front a lot, I feel like Kenny Omega is having this match so we can get his friend Adam Page over, and I feel like he's going to win.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think Adam Page is the right choice here, and that's the thing. You are 100% right. Kenny Omega wants to, he wants to help other superstars get that Kenny Omega rub, so to speak, that I talk about the Roman rub in WWE. I think it's good for Adam Page. I like Adam Page. He's still young. He's got a bright future ahead, and I think this is a kudos to Kenny Omega. They're going to steal the show, I'm sure. It's going to be one of the best matches we've seen, not only on Full Gear, but it could be up there, on our good friend Dave Meltzer on his 5-star list. But in a serious note, I really think it's going to be one of the best matches we're going to see in 2020. So I'm looking forward to that, and I do agree with you. I think Adam Page is going to he's going to come out victorious.
Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin, new Cody Rhodes. I wonder if he comes out tomorrow as Cody Rhodes. We'll find out. But Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin, the TNT Championship. I'm taking Cody Rhodes in this one because just how much, excitement and how important he has talked about the TNT Championship being, how he wants to be a workhorse, how he wants to make it a belt that people see on TV every single week and get defended all the time. I think, again, as being a part of somebody who leads the charge of kind of picking their own storylines and somebody who's saying he wants to do this with the belt, I think he's going to do it with the belt, so I don't see him losing the belt to Darby Allin. I think it should be a good match, but I see Cody Rhodes winning this, and I see Cody Rhodes putting the belt on the line and, kind of being that long-standing workhorse champion in the future. I don't see it giving him the Darby Allin tomorrow.
Yeah, I hate to do this, but I have to agree with you again. I think you are absolutely, again, spot on. I think Darby Allin will be fine, where he's at, even taking an L. I think having Cody Rhodes in that situation, as you said, I think it's the best move for the business going forward. So, nothing against Darby Allin. He's so young anyways. I talk about his age. We don't even know how old he is. He's such a mysterious guy. We don't know if he's 22 or 24. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's in his 20s. But he's got a long career ahead of him. So I think, doing this with Cody Rhodes, being the victor, I think is the way to go.
FTR taking on the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Champions. If the Young Bucks don't win, they will never again in the history of AEW, and it's already been a short history, so it's got more wrestling in front of it than it does behind it. The Young Bucks, are they never going to be the AEW Tag Team Champions ever again for the history of AEW, or are they going to be the Tag Team Champions tomorrow?
I think it's kind of obvious at this point. I feel like they're going to win the championships. That's just me. I think they're going to they're going to cheat. They're going to do something underhanded. That's my call. For that match, I think they're going to pull some tricks out of their sleeve and kind of one up FTR, because FTR is going to try to pull something slick. And I think the Young Bucks are going to outdo them. Overdo it, and they're going to take the win and take the titles. Because here's the thing. Why are we doing that? Why would we do this whole thing again like we did with Cody in the World Championship? Why would we do this with the Young Bucks? I get they're trying to help the business and things like that, but you can't keep doing this over and over. They got to stop doing this already. For me, for the love of God, stop doing it.
It was 1 year ago at Full Gear that Cody Rhodes challenged then champion and lost, and he's made it. He's got 1 year into his promise. He hasn't challenged for the championship since.
Here's the thing. We got to stop doing this every year. Like, what's next year going to be? Oh, Chris Jericho is going to retire if he doesn't win the belt, kind of a thing. And next year's Full Gear. I think these gimmicks are a little. You can't use them up. You can't use them so close together like that, especially with AEW, because they don't have this long history. You can't just say, you can't go down the line and say, yep, you're never going to have a title match. You're never going to have a title match. And then you're going to get down to the bottom of the barrel when they're, for titles. It doesn't make sense for me. It's going to be people that are mid cards fighting for the main championships. That's where it could go potentially. I don't want to see that. So for me, it's got to be the Young Bucks. I mean, are you with me on that, or are you going the other way?
I want to see the Young Bucks win because I don't want to watch wrestling every single week. I mean, I guess I look at it like sport. What if you are a Young Bucks fan like you are a football team fan? And your football team loses and says, "Oh, we're never. If we get accepted into a bid to play in the playoffs, we'll never accept it." Well, then why am I watching you? I mean, you're gonna win games and stuff, but you're literally closing off your future, and you're making it so that down the line, if there's a chance at a real dream match, with Cody Rhodes, Young Bucks, anybody, you're shutting it off because of your stupid storyline that you put in place like 20 years ago. So if a day comes where the Young Bucks have a chance to take on Matt and Jeff Hardy, at their WrestleMania of AEW, and with the tag team belts, they'd say, "Oh no, we can't win the belts or put the belts on the line because a couple of years ago we were taking on FTR, made a promise." And they're like, "Well, what do you think TNT's going to say? Screw your promise. We got the Hardy Boys here, or Edge and Christian here, or somebody here who wants to face you guys on some sort of anniversary show." Or again, you don't know where the company's going to go down the line. You don't know if you're going to someday have a WrestleMania style pay-per-view that's 4 hours long that draws 80,000 people to it. You don't know that. That's why WWE doesn't ever say no to anything. Why do you think we've seen Ultimate Warrior come back, Hulk Hogan come back, Goldberg come back? Because they know that the future comes down the line, and they've said it before, this is an end of an era match with Triple H and Undertaker. But they only said end of an era or final farewell are these words they use because they had to go back on them all the time, because Saudi Arabia said, we've got millions of dollars and we want to see Triple H and The Undertaker go one-on-one, or Australia, I think, had said it at that time, and said, we want to see these guys go one-on-one. Well, do you think Vince McMahon said, well, 20 years ago at, Capital Punishment in Tupelo, Mississippi, these guys fought and promised they'd never fight? No, they said, yeah, we want your money, and yeah, we want to draw that kind of crowd. So for AEW, who hasn't even drawn their biggest crowd ever yet, their biggest crowds are in front of them. They have yet to really reach the stardom they want to reach. Don't already be putting yourself up to where you can't have matches that you would want to have if they come from you. So speaking of Matt Hardy, as I just mentioned, he's facing on Sammy Guevara in an elite deletion match. What is this match? Do you know what are we expecting here?
I don't even know what this is. I don't know the gimmick behind it, but just for argument's sake, I think Matt Hardy's going to drop it to Sammy. I think Sammy's going to win. I think Matt's going to be the veteran that he is and help Sammy a little bit here and give him the I'm going to use the word rub again, but he's going to help the young guy get over. I think getting over on Matt Hardy is going to be a good thing for Sammy Guevara's career, because Matt Hardy is an established brand. He's been around the business for so long. He's done a lot of great things. So I think having Sammy Guevara win this match, I think, is the best thing for business.
Chris Jericho, MJF. Is MJF joining the Inner Circle tomorrow at Full Gear?
Ooh, this one is a tough one.
Quick yes or no?
No. No. I'll just go no.
Orange Cassidy, John Silver. Have you seen enough of John Silver to think that he's going to beat Orange Cassidy, or is this the equivalent of just keep on pushing Orange Cassidy?
Keep pushing Orange. Yep.
All right. The singles match for the AEW Women's Championship, Sheeta versus Nyla Rose, the champion Sheeta. Is Nyla Rose winning the belt with help of Vicky Guerrero tomorrow, yes or no?
Yes.
John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, I Quit match for the AEW Championship. Now, I know we've talked before about people losing their belts when there's no crowd, and obviously AEW does have a crowd, but we've been no crowd now for a while, and frankly, unfortunately, getting a full touring schedule for AEW going doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. In fact, we personally mentioned off the air that a show that was supposed to happen this upcoming Wednesday in Rochester that was postponed for a second time has now been postponed for a third time. And actually, this third time is the furthest one out. The first time it was from March till July, and then July until this November. And now AEW in Rochester is being advertised to happen next June, which is about 8 months away from now. So the AEW is starting to realize that things are going to be even further out than maybe they even originally envisioned. Yeah. So John Moxley, he's been the champion for a while, taking on Eddie Kingston. This is an I Quit match. John Moxley leaving Full Gear with the belt, or is Eddie Kingston winning the championship?
John Moxley is he's gonna keep the title. I don't see him dropping it at this point. As much as I love what Eddie Kingston's been doing, he's been doing a fantastic job. He's been cutting good promos. He looks good in the ring. He's doing all the right things. I just think you got to keep the title on Mox.
Taking Moxley as well, just because I'm not very, I guess, ready for, or I guess I'm not just sold on Eddie Kingston as a champion just yet. I feel like I wasn't that sold on Lance Archer, and and I feel like he's kind of not fallen off, but I mean, some of these people that John Moxley have taken on, I don't feel like they are ready to be the face of the company. If he was fighting Chris Jericho, if he was fighting MJF, I might have a different opinion on this. This isn't so much because there's no crowd. I just feel like the Eddie Kingston storyline is great, just like the Jey Uso storyline on SmackDown's great, but we don't see the belt, going around Jey Uso's waist. I don't see Eddie Kingston being the face of AEW, in lack of better words, at least just yet. I just don't see it.
I totally agree with you, 100%.
So we're gonna end this week's edition of the show on a few little stupid things. Speaking back to the Undertaker, everything comes around full circle. Have you seen the Undertaker limited edition commemorative championship belt on WWE Shop? This thing is 51 inches by 11 inches thick. The plates are 6 millimeters thick, while most of the plates, the caps and the plates range from 6 millimeters to 9 millimeters thick, and it weighs 5.8 pounds. The best part about this, though, the belt is $499 by itself. But if you want it in the special edition urn case, now the urn case is limited to a limited edition of 100 and weighs 15 pounds. It looks kind of like a guitar case, I guess, for lack of a better term, that holds a belt. Now this belt is the old WWF Heavyweight Championship belt in the Winged Eagle design, but it is very Undertaker tricked out. It is not that belt with just that belt. It is purple with Undertaker logos all over it and all that kind of stuff. If you wanted the special edition in the urn case, well, that is going to cost you a cool $1,000. Are you, for Christmas, asking for the $1,000 limited edition Undertaker Championship belt to commemorate 30 years of The Undertaker inside his urn special edition case? Are you asking for the championship belt by itself, or are you being a grown-up like the rest of us and being like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, I'm going to say the latter. I'm going to say I'm going to be grown up about this, and yes, if I ask my wife, if she asked me, hey, what do you want for Christmas this year? And if I told her that's what I wanted, she'd probably give me this look like, are you kidding me? Absolutely not.
Yes, I mean, that goes with if you remember, it was about last year at this time that the Tom Savini special edition handmade Fiend Bray Wyatt belt came out for about $1,000. I also declined getting that belt, and a year later, I feel like I am better for it. But another final thing I want to say, are you out of your mind? Chavo Guerrero recently shared that back in the day when he was pulling out the Kerwin White character, the whole that he's not really Latino, he's more, identifies with the white culture. Well, Chavo Guerrero comes from a time where he says being a heel is something he takes very seriously. He doesn't want to be in a time where heels are heels on TV, and then when you see them in person, there's somebody who say, hey, I love your character, nice to meet you. He wants to be spit on at airports. He wants to be truly someone who has white hot heat. So Chavo Guerrero, and this seems like something Vince McMahon would tell Chavo Guerrero to do, but Chavo Guerrero, prior to the passing of Eddie Guerrero, in which then obviously the Kerwin White character ended, so the Chavo Guerrero could then carry on the legacy of Eddie Guerrero and become a face. But before the Kerwin White character ended, Chavo Guerrero suggested to Vince McMahon he wanted to start coming out in a white robe and a white pointed hat Ku Klux Klan hat. Are you out of your mind, Chavo Guerrero?
What in heaven's name? That is you got me speechless, Jared. That is, oh God, that is just insane.
Yeah, and I would think that maybe Vince McMahon would be better, but it's just crazy to think that it was the character. It was Chavo Guerrero suggesting that to Vince McMahon. And the crazy thing is Vince McMahon has suggested some crazy things. Yeah. So for one of his talent to come up to him and suggest that to him, I think Vince McMahon, I think maybe the passing of Eddie Guerrero has a silver lining in the fact that never happened, because that would have looked good for nobody. That would have looked bad for Chavo. That would have looked bad for Vince. And who knows the repercussions that could have faced, other than, white hot heat is one thing. And a lot of people had some hot heat back in the 80s. And I remember there was a Ku Klux Klan character and a Nazi character back in the early 80s, but those were in wrestling companies that weren't publicly traded on the stock market, that didn't sell toys at Walmart, and didn't have Saturday morning cartoons like the WWE we're familiar with now. So I don't think that would fly in the current sports entertainment realm. So thankfully that never happened.
And one real quick note, remember, we've talked about it before, the character from our local guy, Muhammad there, where the 9/11 kicked in, and then his character went bye-bye.
Yes. Well, that wasn't 9/11. His character was born from 9/11. It was the London bombings a couple years ago.
Right, you're right.
In 2005. It killed his 9/11 bred his character. That's where his character even came from.
You're right.
So don't forget the Un-Americans. And don't forget what I think was killed by 9/11. People do forget there was something that 9/11 killed, and that was if I'm not mistaken, was it the Un-Americans? Or actually, no, I think the Un-Americans were still around. They might have been after 9/11 as well, with the Lance Storm and Test and all those guys. And now that I think about it, I remember seeing them come out at SummerSlam 2002. So yeah, I think that actually might have been another group that September 11th bred. So I'm wondering, I should go back in time to see if September 11th killed any characters. We all know that it made Kurt Angle a white-hot babyface. That's about all I can tell you for sure. 9/11 did that.
Yeah, that's 100% sure, because he's the Olympian. He's the true patriot. He's the he's the U.S. gold medalist with a broken freaking neck.
He went from being not exactly a babyface to winning, and probably 9/11 gave him the championship belt that he won about 3 weeks later at Unforgiven in his hometown of Pittsburgh. Was he going to win the belt prior? I don't know. I guess we'll never find out, or at least until a nice Broken Skull section with Kurt Angle tells us otherwise, or Kurt Angle in the Corey Graves podcast. Either way, when it comes to Broken Skulls and when it comes to podcasts, we're here. So if you miss it on one of those, we'll probably be covering it here at the Heel the Face podcast. So make sure you tune in here, because we got some other stuff non-WWE related we could talk about. Like WWE's not going to mention that whole Ku Klux Klan storyline thing with you, because, well, that would be stupid on their part. So either way, that's going to do it for another edition of the Heel the Face podcast. For Brandon Clements, for myself, Jared, you make sure to follow the program at Heel the Face, subscribe, and get notified of all our updates each week. We're going to break down Full Gear next week. And some other stuff that we just didn't have time to talk to this week, we'll put on the back burner, and we will talk about next week on another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast.